Hello and welcome to Mosaic Wellness University class number 2. This is Dr. David Harper, your wellness coach and host. For those of you who are here for the first time, a special welcome. Mosaic Wellness University has two main values. The first is our overreaching value, and that is that your life matters. If your life matters, then you will do whatever it takes to protect it. The second is that Mosaic Wellness University is a place where what you learn may save your life. My objective for Mosaic Wellness University is to save lives. The information you will receive in this university classroom format, the resources, the activities, the challenges, even the products and services we will recommend are to help you become healthier next year than you were this year. Why I'm teaching this class? Because this country's health is declining every year, and I cannot stand by and watch it happen anymore. The only solution is to empower you, the people, to make the choices that are best for you. And to do that, you need to be educated. Education is the key to healthcare. But the ultimate solution is the action from that education, and that is to not get sick. To do that, you need to be proactive. To be proactive, you need to know how. To know how, you need to know what you need to do for you. Our class tonight is about diet. Our objective is to examine our diet and to help each of you understand more clearly four basic things. The first is that the quality of the food you are eating. Number two is the quantity of food you should be eating. Number three is what is a proper balance of food in your diet. And number four, to learn about timing. How often should you eat and when? As we can see from this slide here, our diet has changed. We don't grow our own food anymore, and we depend upon commercial farming for our food, which affects the freshness and the aspects of vitality within that food. Because to be able to bring that food long distances, it results in the use of preservative chemicals in our food. Number two, commercial farming has resulted in food with less nutritional value and more toxic chemicals from pesticides and fertilizers. In the old days, they used to let a field go fallow to be able to restore its nutritional quality every 5 to 7 years. Now they just farm and farm and farm, or they add nutrients to it with chemicals and fertilizers to substitute for what they draw out of it. Remember, the food that you plant draws out of the soil the nutrients that are within that soil, and the water and the sunshine adds to that to allow that plant to grow. From 1900 to 1970, the intake of fresh produce has decreased by 30%. Number four, processing of foods has reduced their nutritional value by 20 to 80%. In 1900, very few foods were processed, and now over 90% of the Canadian households have food budgets that spend most of their money on processed foods. Foods are not created equal. We are going to give you a lot of information today that is vitally important for you to understand. If you only come away with one concept from today's class, I want you to understand that there are living foods and dead foods, and that living foods bring life, while dead foods bring sickness and death. When you eat living foods, you get the natural ingredients that our Creator put into them, like vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, antioxidants, fiber, etc. When you eat dead foods, you assault your body with intruders, foreign chemicals, preservatives, and food additives. Chronic diseases and its relationship to our particular diet, then, is well known. The Standard North American Diet, or Standard American Diet, the acronym for that is SAD. I think that's quite interesting that the Standard American Diet has that acronym of SAD. Can't do that with a Canadian diet, so we'll use that acronym SAD to actually refer to North American diets. It tends to be high in animal fats, high in unhealthy fats, saturated and hydrogenated, low in fiber, high in processed foods, low in complex carbohydrates, and low in plant-based foods. 7 out of 10 deaths among Canadians each year are from chronic diseases, and here is what is sad. They are all preventable. They're preventable because they're related to our lifestyle, our diet, our environment, those things that we have control over. And research has actually indicated, as a matter of fact, that when tested amongst genetically identical twins that have been separated at birth, that the risk for chronic illness and disease and cancer is only 25% related to the genetic similarities, 75% related to the diet, lifestyle, environment of the twin. So the striking fact is that cultures that eat the reverse of the Standard American Diet, such as low in fat, high in complex carbohydrates, plant-based, and high in fiber, have a lower incidence of cancer and coronary artery disease. What's even sadder is that countries whose populations can afford to eat the healthiest, disease-preventing foods don't. Canada has spent more money on cancer research than most of the countries in the world, yet the Canadian diet contributes to the very diseases we are spending money to prevent. So why do we eat? The food that we eat are building blocks called nutrients, so the body can manufacture new cells in the body's chemicals. You see, the body needs the fuel to function. It needs the fuel to heal. It needs the fuel for immune function. It needs the fuel to drive the muscular system in our body. It needs it for energy. It needs it for repair. But there are also social and emotional reasons, and these are not always good as to why we eat. And those are sometimes those issues are related to what we might hear of in terms of comfort foods. We all know that sugar can be a comfort food. Chocolate can be a comfort food. And the reason that is because it's trying to meet a particular emotional need, but a particular deficiency that is a result of the stress associated with that social or emotional environment. But nutrients then are those chemicals that a person must consume to live and grow. The body cannot produce them. You're either moving in two directions. You're either getting healthier, you're either growing, you're becoming stronger, or you're becoming weaker. You become weaker when you abdicate any type of effort into maintaining that strength, and you only become stronger when you add stress to the system, such as perhaps some type of weight training component or some type of mental processing challenge. We all know that there's so much research now that talks about brain health associated with continuing to maintain a healthy mental processing, keeping the brain active for a long period of time throughout our lifetime, helps to keep us brain young. And we know that when we've abdicated that responsibility and become lazy or slothful in our behavior, that the body will degenerate faster. What types of nutrients are there? Well, there are two basic types, macronutrients and micronutrients, and I've listed them for you here. And we'll be talking primarily today about the proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. We'll be leaving the vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients, etc., to another class that we will have. But see down here that sufficient macronutrients plus sufficient micronutrients equals a healthy diet, and a healthy diet leads to a healthy body. Garbage in, garbage out. You can't put bad gasoline into a car expecting it to run well. You can't put low-grade gasoline into a jet engine and expect it to take off. Whatever you put into it will put out of it. And it amazes me that the dog food industry repeatedly advertises their expressed dog food with omega-3s and vitamins and minerals for the bone and for the teeth and for the gums and for a nice coat, but yet we'll feed our kids junk food, fast food, food that is prepared with all the different things that we're going to be talking about later in this presentation that are bad for us. So what are proteins? Proteins are essential building blocks of the body. There are bad proteins and there are good proteins. But the proteins are made up of chains of small molecules called amino acids. Proteins are found everywhere in the body. They help make up cell walls and membranes. They make up the majority of muscle tissue and blood cells. And they make up genetic strands of each cell known as DNA or an RNA. Almost all hormones and enzymes are formed from amino acids which help regulate metabolism. All chemical reactions in the body and the support of the immune system come from protein. Protein is critical and is necessary. But just like fat, there's good proteins and there's bad proteins. The bad quality proteins are bad because they are processed. We hear all the time about the dangers of processed meats, but have you ever wondered why the consumption of processed meats is so strongly linked to cancers of the colon, breast, prostate, and pancreas? One recent study showed a 67% increase in pancreatic cancer for people consuming moderate amounts of processed meats on a frequent basis. Conventional medical doctors and nutritional researchers tend to put the bulk of the blame on the saturated fat content of processed meats, but they ignore two notable culprits that I think are far worse offenders when it comes to human health. Let's take a closer look at these two problems with processed meats. The first problem is found in the fats of these processed meats. The problem isn't the fat molecules themselves, but rather the toxic chemicals, heavy metals, and environmental pollutants that are transported within them. You see, these chemicals are fat soluble, so the fat actually hides these types of chemicals in the body. It's one of the main reasons why people have a hard time losing weight, because the concentrations of heavy metals, toxic chemicals, and pollutants in the fat are released as the fat cells are challenged to become smaller. But what happens is that increases the relative concentrations of those chemicals in the body, and without a route to exit, the body puts fat back on to hide them again because it doesn't want them finding their way into organ systems. So for non-organic beef, it's quite common to find trace amounts of heavy metals like mercury and cadmium, as well as pesticides, hormones, and antibiotics, and even PCBs. The second and more important reason processed meats are so strongly correlated with cancer is, I believe, the continued use of cancer-promoting additives called sodium nitrate. This ingredient, which sounds harmless, is actually highly carcinogenic once it enters the human digestive system. It's widely regarded as a toxic ingredient, and the USA FDA actually tried to ban this additive in the 1970s, but was vetoed by food manufacturers who complained that they had no alternative for preserving packaged meat products. You can find sodium nitrate in nearly every packaged meat product imaginable. It's listed right on the label of products like bacon, breakfast sausage, beef jerky, pepperoni, sandwich meat, hams, hot dogs, and even the meats found in canned soups. If sodium nitrate is so dangerous, why does the food industry use it? Simple. This chemical just happens to turn meats bright red. It's actually a color fixer, and it makes old, dead, unappetizing meat appear fresh and vibrant, and we get fooled into thinking that it's good for us. So what different types of protein are there? Well, another protein that's really good for you is whey protein. So to determine how much protein you need per day, an active person needs to have 0.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So an average man weighing 180 pounds will require 180 times 0.5 or 90 grams of protein. This is also an area where women want to take a closer look, because it is generally accepted that most women do not get enough protein in their diet. Why are we bringing up whey protein? Because it is one of the most complete proteins on the planet, and for most people it is very digestible. If you are not eating a good breakfast every day, then your diet is not good. The most common excuse for not eating breakfast is not having the time to make breakfast, and it's much faster to have a McBreakfast or a Pop-Tart or a donut and a coffee. That is starting your day with fuel composed of dead food. When you learn about the benefits of whey protein and how it's easy to make a quick breakfast with lots of live food and nutrients, you'll make it a part of your daily routine to drink your breakfast on the run. Whey comes from the making of cheese. It is found in protein powder in two forms: concentrate and isolate. So when you're looking for a good whey protein substitute, it's important to focus on the isolate forms, because it is the one that you want to use, not the concentrate forms. What about soy protein? I've had several patients ask me over the years if soy protein is a good substitute for animal protein, especially vegetarians, and my answer is, the verdict is still out. While it is true that in countries where soy is a major part of their diet, people have a smaller proportion of chronic diseases, it is also true that the soy they are eating is not the same as what we are eating in this country. In Asia, the soy most often consumed is fermented soy, a taste that is harsh and strong to most of us. It is the form of natto, miso, tempeh, soy sauces, fermented tofu, and fermented soy milk. In the Western countries, our soy products are usually non-fermented and include fresh soybeans, soy nuts, soy sprouts, soy flour, soy milk, tofu, soy protein. Even though soy foods as a health food is a controversial subject, it is known that unfermented soy has the highest pesticide content of any crop. That most soy is found in processed foods. A lot of it is genetically modified. Up to 91% of soybeans grown in the U.S. are genetically modified to be immune to Roundup, meaning that they can saturate the soy plants with herbicides and it doesn't kill the soy plant. Soy contains goitrogens, or chemicals that can interrupt normal thyroid function, and they're a major source of phytoestrogens. So is soy a healthy food, or is it a source of good protein? While it may be a protein alternative for a vegetarian, my opinion is that soy should be eaten in moderation, and fish, lean chicken, and turkey, and whey protein are better sources. So what about fats? Another one of these macronutrients that we talked about. Fats play an important role in making up the cell membranes of the body. In fact, the type of fat that you eat, if it's animal fat or whether it's fat from fish, will actually determine the percentage of fat that enters into your cell membranes. And what's interesting is the fat from red meat that we consume that ends up into our cells, if the cell becomes damaged through trauma, that fat that is damaged in the cell membrane when trauma occurs is actually inflammatory producing. So when fat is broken down, it's needed for energy. It's turned into glycerol as free fatty acids. The glycerol can be converted to glucose or sugar by the liver and used for energy. So while carbohydrates only produce 4 kilocalories per gram of energy, fats produce a whopping 9 kilocalories per gram of energy. But just like the proteins, there are good fats and bad fats. So a lot has been said that just isn't true. Fat makes you fat. Fat is not the enemy. Poor food choices, the balance and quality of food you eat, and lack of exercise makes you fat. Although fat-laden products can be full of calories, a modest amount of fat may be helpful to help you feel full and make healthy foods like vegetables taste better. It's also important for certain minerals to get in, and vitamins to get in the body. Vitamin E, for example, is a vitamin that is fat-soluble and therefore needs to be consumed with a fat to help it absorb into our body. It also helps with the absorption of phytonutrients. The best choices for fats in your diet, though, are monosaturated fats such as olive oil, almond oil, and coconut oil. The worst fat choices are saturated fats, which come from primarily animal sources. The one type of fat that we all need to avoid, though, at all cost is trans fats. Trans fats, which means trans fatty acids, is the worst kind of fat, far worse than saturated fat. Partial hydrogenation is an industrial process used to make an acceptable oil, such as a soybean oil, into a perfectly bad oil. The process is used to make an oil more solid, provide longer shelf life in baked products, provide longer fry life for cooking oils, and provide a certain kind of texture. The problem is that partially hydrogenated oil is laden with lethal trans fat. And it's this partial hydrogenated oils that are commonly found in processed foods like commercial baked goods, cookies, cakes, crackers, and even bread. They are also used as cooking oils for frying in restaurants. Top nutritionists at Harvard have concluded that trans fats could be responsible for as many as 30,000 premature coronary deaths per year, as studies have shown that those patients consuming high amounts of trans fat had a 29% increase in the ability of decrease in the ability of heart blood vessels to dilate when an increased blood supply was necessary, leading to heart attack. Basically saying that the blood vessel becomes less elastic because of the trans fat, and when activity that requires blood supply is required, they don't distend to allow more blood to flow through, and heart attack results. So trans fats may raise the risk of getting breast cancer as well. In a 2008 study in the American Journal of Epidemiology, it was found that women with the highest blood levels of trans fat had twice the risk of breast cancer compared to women with the lowest levels. So, don't eat any trans fats. Don't eat any fats with the word partially hydrogenated or shortening in the ingredients list. If they say 0, don't believe it. They can get around it by identifying a different serving size that gets it down below 0.5 grams. If it's 0.5 grams of trans fat or below, they can say it's 0 even though it's not. So believe me, read the labels. Girl Scout cookies, Chips Ahoy, Oreos, for example, are all contain some partially hydrogenated oils but claim to have 0 trans fats. Remember when McDonald's told the world that they were taking the trans fats out of their French fries? Well, guess what? There are more trans fats in their fries today than there were when they made the announcement. So what is the right type of fat? Essential fatty acids are fats that we must obtain from our diet. They include omega-6 fats, which we get from grains, oils, chicken, and turkey, and omega-3 fats, which we get from all animal meats, fish, eggs, cheese, and milk. But today, because commercial ranching does not allow for animals to be raised on free-range eating grasses, the animals are fed man-made foods and pellets that are devoid of omega-3 fats. So the only places we get them with significant levels is from cold water fish such as tuna and salmon, flaxseed, and walnuts. The fat that most Americans and Canadians are deficient in is omega-3 fatty acids. It is estimated that 60% of all North American adults and 78% of all North American children are omega-3 deficient. Omega-3 fatty acid deficiency is now classified as the 6th biggest killer of Americans and Canadians in North America, and is connected to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, strokes, high blood pressure, and diabetes. If there is one nutritional supplement that I believe every man, woman, and child should be taking several times a day, it's omega-3s. If you're interested in finding out the best form of omega-3, please email me at drdave@mosaiclifecare.com. That's drdave@mosaiclifecare.com, or call 905-629-0688, and I can direct you into that proper supplement. Okay, so the final macronutrient that we're going to be talking about is carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates provide energy for muscle movement and for driving all the metabolic functions of the body. Carbohydrates can be classified as two types, simple and complex. Simple carbohydrates have low fiber and have major effect on blood sugar levels due to rapid assimilation. That's what helps to trigger diabetes over time. Complex carbohydrates are high fiber foods which improve your digestion. They help stabilize the blood sugar, keep your energy at an even level, and help you feel satisfied longer after a meal. Types of foods that are complex carbohydrates include sweet potatoes and yams, oat bran bread, all bran cereals, brown rice, whole grain pastas, lentils and kidney beans, chickpeas, whole grain breads, and oatmeal. But not all carbohydrate foods are created equal. They can all behave quite differently in our bodies. The glycemic index, or GI, describes this difference by ranking carbohydrate foods according to their effect on our blood glucose levels. Choosing low GI carbs leads to healthy insulin levels, which is the gold line in the graph, and choosing high GI carbs leads to high insulin levels and fluctuating blood sugar levels that result in insulin resistance, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome, and that's the red line. So what are some of the foods that we can eat? There's a list here of different types of fruits and vegetables that are good to eat and not good to eat. I could give you a whole list, but this tells a bit of the story. With the exception of watermelon, if it's processed carbs, it has a high glycemic index and creates great blood sugar fluctuations and insulin reactions. If it's natural and whole, it has a low glycemic index and leads to healthy blood sugar and insulin levels. Now let's move on to have a discussion about fiber. So then the difference between good carbs and bad carbs is, if you haven't figured out, is whether it's been processed or not. So when you process foods, you remove a very important component of the food, and that's the fiber. The fiber is important when it comes to carbohydrates because it's the fiber that controls how fast the carbs are absorbed in the bloodstream. The less the fiber, the faster the absorption, and greater the spike in blood sugar and insulin. The more the fiber, the more slowly and evenly the carbs are absorbed into the bloodstream, and the smaller the blood sugar and insulin fluctuation. Now, all this is meaningless if you don't know how to read the nutrition labels on the foods that I've been talking about in terms of those that are bad things for you. So we're going to spend a little bit of time reading about these nutritional facts. So where do you start? Well, the first place to start is a serving size. How many servings are in this bag or box? And you'll see that there on the top underneath the word nutrition facts. Next, the servings per container. Next, the calories per serving. So the calories per serving is very important. So in this case, calories from fat. If a product has 250 calories, which it says there, calories from fat are 110, that means that almost half the calories in this product is made from fats. So this food is not going to be a good choice. Next, we look at the information about the fats. We don't want a lot of saturated fats, so the total fat there is 12 grams. The best fats are monounsaturated, but still we want to have some saturated fats in our diet, but they would want to come from lean meat, eggs, dairy products, etc. And we don't want any trans fat. Food companies have also figured out how to manipulate the serving size of foods in order to make it appear that their products are devoid of harmful ingredients like trans fatty acids. The smaller the serving size, the closer they get to the 0.5 gram loop, where they don't have to list the trans fats at all, the better they like it. The next one down is carbohydrates. You gotta look at the type of carbs. If the total carbohydrate per serving is 40 grams of carbs and 30 grams is coming from sugar, then the carbohydrates are not for the kind we want to consume. We want more of the complex carbs that come from whole grains. Next, we look at protein. Anything under 5% is low. Anything 20% or higher is too high. At the bottom, we're looking at the amount of the RDAs of vitamins A and C, calcium and iron. Ignore these because the RDA for these nutrients is very questionable anyway. Now, what's on the ingredients label? Another form of hidden ingredient is MSG. Everyone's heard of MSG, monosodium glutamate, a flavor enhancer that's known widely as an addition to Chinese food. But it's actually added to thousands of the foods that you and your family will regularly eat, especially if you're like most Canadians and eat the majority of your food as processed foods or in restaurants. It's one of the worst additives. It's found in crackers, meats, salad dressings, frozen dinners, and much more. It's found in the supermarket and restaurants and in local school cafeterias. It's been known to cause nerve damage, Alzheimer's disease, Huntington's chorea, headaches, obesity, fatigue, depression, and cardiac arrhythmias. Also look for the hidden forms of MSG in the food labels. So what's the message? Okay, here's the different things that MSG can cause. So what's the message? If it's boxed, bagged, canned, or jarred, and has a list of ingredients on the label, it's processed. And processed foods are dead foods. The life has been sucked out of them and chemicals added to make them last longer on a shelf, look better, or taste better. Food additives are also dead food, and that are part of the processing process. We're talking about artificial colorings, flavorings, bleaching agents, and etc. Now, if you're wanting to find out more information about food additives, there's a great website here that I want to bring your attention to from the Center for Science and the Public Interest. Take this website down, pause the presentation, take this website down, and educate yourself about how all these different stabilizing agents are actually bad for you and what they mean in terms of health. Some of these are going to be artificial sweeteners, and there are no safe artificial sweeteners. Today, artificial sweeteners and other sugar substitutes are found in a variety of foods and beverages marked as sugar-free or diet, including soft drinks, chewing gum, jellies, baked goods, candy, fruit juice, and ice cream. Some of these include aspartame, which is a known neurotoxin. It's been linked to brain tumors and birth defects. Splenda, also known as sucralose, is an artificial sweetener. It's basically chlorinated sucrose derivative. Pre-approval research showed that sucralose caused shrunken thymus glands and enlarged livers and kidneys. And recent research shows a possible problem with cecal enlargement and renal mineralization, and has been seen in post-approval animal research. The basic issue here is not good. We should avoid all artificial sweeteners as they have found to cause cancer, to kill nerve cells, and to affect the immune system and large intestine. So, how do we choose between organic and non-organic? How do we know what's right? What's the difference? What does organic mean? Organic means no synthetic fertilizers were used, no pesticides were used, no herbicides were used, hand weeding was done rather than chemical spraying, organic farming using natural fertilization such as mulching and crop rotation, and there's been no animal products used or antibiotics. In a U.S. study published in April 2001, 41 comparisons of the nutrient levels in organic and conventionally grown foods. In every case, the organic crops had a higher nutrient level, 27% more vitamin C, 29% more iron, and 14% more phosphorus. So why does organic matter? Well, it matters because the biggest challenge we have with non-organic food is that it has high levels of pesticides, high levels of genetic modification, and these are the types of food that you're allowed to have. So if you're going to buy non-organic, make sure that it's the fruits with peels or rinds that are discarded. So the idea here is that an orange would be okay as a non-organic orange, but an apple would not because you're going to eat the peel. GMO foods are those foods which are genetically modified. This is done by splicing genes that have special properties in bacteria such as resistance to Roundup herbicides into the DNA of corn or soybeans or some other seed. Animal studies have found that GM foods create problems such as infertility, immune problems, accelerated aging, insulin regulation problems, and changes in major organs and in the GI tract. Use caution when buying food. So the verdict is still out of the impact on humans because we haven't had enough time on the trial of life to see how things would work. But it makes sense that when you modify a food to be different than the way it was created to be, that you will change the way in which the body will actually manage it and assimilate it. So in understanding the difference between organic and non-organic, here's a tip on reading the produce labels. So you want to avoid a food with a product label that has 5 digits and starts with an 8. That means that the food is genetically engineered. Look for labels whose label, the PLU label, has 5 digits and starts with a 9. That means that the food is grown organically. See the 9 right here? We've been talking about the quality of food we eat. Let's talk for a moment about the quantity of food we eat. On the slide here, we have the difference between a McDonald's cheeseburger in 1970 and Carl's Jr. $6 burger in 2010. Notice the beef patty is 5 times larger now, and the burger of today has over 2.5 times the calories. In the 1970s, around 47% of Canadians were overweight or obese. Now 66% of us are. In addition, the number of obese people has doubled from 15% of our population to 30% of our population. Guys, remember the movie Super Size Me? It's all about the type of food we eat. We're talking about sizes when you talk about plate sizes. It's not just the food portions that have increased, but the plate, bowl, and cup sizes have as well. In the early 1990s, the standard plate size of a dinner plate increased from 10 to 12 inches. Cup and bowl sizes were also increased. Healthy portion sizes. Here is a visual guide for healthy portion sizes. Review the meat, chicken, fish, cheese, cereal, and pasta sizes. One of the best ways to begin tracking your portions is to keep your food diary and the recording of quantities you eat. Keep a copy of this in your refrigerator and one in your purse or wallet, and continue to add to it each day. So what's the balance of nutrients? Well, fruits and vegetables should be about half a plate, 1/4 of a plate of lean protein, and 1/4 of a plate of healthy carbs from grains or starchy vegetables. A small amount of healthy oil or fat can also be used. Planning your meals. Guys, we have some opportunities for you to get involved in a 7-day challenge. There's some questionnaires that are associated with this particular session that you can download. There's recommended food choices that you can download as well. And these can be used as tools and support documents to help you make the right choices. If you have any questions, call the office at 905-629-0688 or email me at drdave@mosaiclifecare.com, and I'll be more than happy to assist you in helping you make those types of choices through coaching. So how often should I eat? Imagine your body as a wood stove. What does a wood stove need in order to produce even heating in your home? It needs fuel. What if you forgot to add fuel? What happens to the function of the wood stove? It grows cold and doesn't produce heat. Your body is like a wood stove. It needs a steady supply of fuel in order to function properly. If your body does not receive the fuel it needs, it actually begins to function poorly. What burns the best in a wood stove? High quality woods, oak, fir, almond, pine. If you throw a piece of paper in the wood stove in the morning, how well will that work as fuel to heat up the room? The same is true for the body. What if we throw a donut and a cup of coffee in the morning? How well will that work as fuel for the body? The fuel the body needs is proteins, fats, carbs, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, antioxidants, and water. When we don't supply the body with the fuel it needs, it will function poorly. What if you just decided not to throw a log on the stove at all? What would you expect to happen to the heat? The fire is going to go out. Simply, that's what happens to the body when you skip meals. In research, children who start the day with low protein by skipping breakfast have lower achievement test scores. Elderly subjects who ate a good breakfast had better performance scores on memory tests. Children who eat breakfast have better attention span and ability to concentrate. When volunteers skipped meals, they had higher blood sugar levels, higher and more sustained elevation of blood sugar concentrations, and a delayed response to the body's insulin compared to when they ate 3 meals a day. All precursors to diabetes. So guys, just like the wood stove, we should have added fuel on a regular basis. Research suggests that we should be eating every 3 hours. Okay? So when should we eat? As we have said, our body needs fuel in the form of nutrients every 2.5 to 3 hours. An ideal meal timing plan would look like this and have 5 meals. A balanced breakfast, mid-morning snack, a balanced lunch, a mid-afternoon snack, and a balanced dinner. An evening snack would be protein source or vegetable at least 2 hours before retiring to bed. What times? Soon after you rise in the morning. If you eat breakfast at 7 a.m., your timing would look like this: 7, 10, 1, 4, 7. So here's the challenge from Class 2. First of all, complete the challenges that you can download for Class 1. Eat or drink a breakfast every day. If you're interested in taking the 7-day diet challenge and eat only the foods on the recommended food list, then do that. Download the information. If you have any questions, as I said, call me or email me. Eat balanced meals. Remember the plate concept. Stop eating before you are completely stuffed, and continue to journal your food and exercise. And guys, it's an honor to be serving you in this way, and I only wish you well in your exercises as you try the different challenges. And if there are any questions at any time, I love to dialogue and love to challenge patients and to be challenged by them. So let's have a dialogue. Let's see what we can work out. Let's figure out how to make your M.O.S.A.I.C Wellness University experience the best it possibly can be, so that you too can be one that can beat the disease risk that will befall us if we don't take this information, apply it to our lives, and make it useful. Bless you. Have a great time.